And as soon as we go live, we're live. Let's see. We have Demeter, 11th Dimension, Just a Walking Fish, Walker, and myself.
Hello.
Speed of Maybe Sound.
Speed of Pudding.
Speed of Pudding. Fuck you, Walker. I
He
can
must not be named.
I can say it, but I'm not sure if you can. Anyway, so I wanted to go over the debate that John Maddox and Praise I Am That I Am had yesterday, a couple days ago with Amy and with Brenda. And there were a number of points in there, and I'm hoping one of them I think Leo has to address because it's quantum mechanics. But first of all, I wanted to get to this. There was a live stream on Maddox's channel where they went over. Otangelo was on Godless Engineer's channel. And I don't know if you saw that, Demeter, but he had a long talk with Godless Engineer.
No,
a lot of it was about religion. So, and I watched just, a little bit of it. I'm going to try to watch the rest of it. But anyway, so they had an after show and they were talking about DNA and complexity and all of that stuff. And I'm going to try to share a screen here in a minute. And let's see if I can share my application window. But they were talking about how DNA is normally people say that DNA has 800 megabytes of information in it. And I wanted to show how that was done, basically. And they were saying that, no, that's ridiculous. These atheists are stupid. It has much more information in it than that, much more than 800. But anyway, so we have a strand of DNA, and each nucleotide can be one of 4 different nucleotides. And so in order to represent 4 things, we can have, in binary, we have 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. So we need 2 bits. So each one of these is a bit in order to represent every nucleotide. So you multiply 3.2 billion times 2 bits, and you end up with 4.4 billion or 6. I'm sorry, I'm great at that. 6.4 billion, and you divide that by 8 because there are 8 bits in a byte. So you end up with 800 megabytes of data.
For the haploid,
Yeah, because that would be the amount of information you have. So, yeah.
Well, I mean,
okay, yeah. If you had different genes or, alleles, of course, that would increase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
it would just be twice that. It'd be 1.6 for the full diploid genome.
And then you figure 10% of the genome is coding, then you end up with 80 megabytes of data. So, and I think son of a bitch.
8% or 10% for coding, I'm pretty sure is a high estimate. Like, I'm pretty sure sequence dependence is somewhere between like 10 and 20%, but coding regions are only about 1%.
1.2 or something like that.
Yeah, something really small.
Yeah. Thank you, Notability. This program, they're going to have to fix this thing. Let's see. Okay, where do we have all notes? All notes. Welcome. I can try this one. See if that one works. I lost my thing. I don't believe it. This ain't working. Anyway, looks like we're going to have to do it without this for a minute because it's broken. My program's broken. So anyway, but the idea is, and I really wish I could draw because it would be so much easier if I could think and draw at the same time. Maybe I will just draw and you guys won't be able to see it. Notability, come on. And it's not showing, it's just showing a black screen.
You should use the better app that you developed, right?
Yeah, except I had a beta version that was free and the thing expired.
Wait, so you can't get your own app?
I can't get my own. I have to call the office and get them to re-up me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we might be in business. We're in business. How about that? Okay. We're in business again. For a moment, we're in business. We're not for long. But anyways, so you got the DNA strand, and if you take the DNA strand and you put it in a petri dish, it ain't going to do anything. You're not going to end up with a human being. You know, it has that, and for them to argue that it has more information is kind of ridiculous because they're not. Leo's in the back room, because they're not really. They're lying to you, basically. They're saying it's like petabytes or terabytes, of information, because of course, there's just all these possibilities of exons, various exons being spliced together and all of that stuff, and all of these complex abilities with regulation that makes a cell. But the point is that a cell from your mother, the zygote, has information in it, and it has a lot of proteins in it and a nucleus, and daddy comes in and injects his stuff, and you end up with all of these things interacting with that strand of DNA, and life basically interacts with itself in order to produce higher complexity. So you put energy into the equation, and you keep ending up with more and more complexity. And then you look at where the mama zygote came from. Well, it came from its mama's zygote, and and on and on and on and on backwards. So the complexity develops. But the point I wanted to make is that we have this rather limited amount of data, 800 megabytes, and it creates a very, very complex organism that is you. Mm-hmm. So in real time, we can see complexification of information. We can see where 800 megabytes turns into something with just tremendous petabytes and whatever the next thing is, femtobytes or whatever of information. And that is because the world is interacting with the zygote, and the zygote is interacting with itself. And so there's this increase of complexity. So right there, we have this very, very simplified egg, that is considerably less complex than you are, and it complexifies itself by just eating food and turning into a more complicated thing. So we can see the miracle of life with all natural means right in front of our eyes. So I mean, we already have an example of it. So that was my point.
Does that address something that Maddox had said? Like, is that a direct address?
They were trying to say that there's all sorts of other information in the DNA strand, that there are petabytes of information in the DNA strand, that it is. They believe that God just put all that information into that 800 megabyte strand of information. That sort of thing.
I mean, there is, if you go to like epigenetic regulation, that's passed down from generation to generation. But I think it's hard to quantify anything outside of just the base pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, how do you... So it's easy to say, like, okay, there's 4 nucleotides, and each one is given a binary input, right? But it's hard to say, like, okay, well, here's this histone protein that has an acetylation, or like an acetylated... Fuck, I forgot what it is. I don't know, but it's an acetylated histone, so it's a little bit looser, so there's more DNA transcription going on, and I wouldn't know how to quantify that.
Yeah, I think it's...
I think the thing, it is kind of all... It's very simple, the picture. I mean, you have layers, different layers, and different level of transfer of information. Mm-hmm. Of course, the number of nucleotides is one thing, and we know about that. We can count them. But also the meaningful numbers are something different. You have additional level of complexity. And after that, you have a network of interactions, RNA interactions with the DNA. You have network of interactions between the different regulation genes. So you have a regulation over the regulation of the regulation, epigenetic regulations. You have intracellular regulations and interactions. You have organismal regulations and interactions, a huge network. And this is a layers after layers after layers. Of course, that's much more complicated that everything and everyone can figure it out easily. But that's it. I don't see the point. I mean, I understand the point of the creationist point of view that there is some sort of extra non-explained information that sets up exactly the epigenetic code or the epigenetic regulations, and this is supposed to be unknown or known. The problem is that everything is very well understood by now in principle.
Yeah.
There is no way to not explain. There is nothing unexplainable in this complexity. That's my point.
Yeah, it's all natural, and we can look at it and we can test it. We can empirically verify each piece of it. Happening in real time, and the kind of hard thing to understand is like when a human being pops up, at this point in time, right? We have a human being, and it exists for a while, and then it sends out an egg or a sperm, at a higher level to the next human being, and that pops up. This is your lifeline, right? Till you're 100 years old. But, when the female is like 14 days old or something, the gametes are basically formed, or maybe it's a little later than that. And then the next thing pops up. When you think of what am I as a human being, I'm basically, like mushrooms have this mycelium, which is most of the mushroom, and then they pop up this sex organ that is a mushroom. Yeah. We are basically like a sex organ, or we're like a mushroom that pops up out of life, right? And so all we are is a mushroom, and the important part is this thing that goes into the future, that sort of thing, and it goes all the way back into the past. But the thing is that it's complexifying and changing as it goes, because every step of the way, every different organism going all the way back for 4 billion years is a different organism. So we're constantly changing. So each mushroom is unique and different. And we just keep going. But I like to think of myself as just a mushroom. That's not going to last very long. Mushrooms.
Don't forget that every time when you have fertilization, before the fertilization, actually the genes shoveled. They're shoveled for you, prepared as unique. Is unique shoveled of the genes for you. So you are unique in that case, because it is just before the actual fertilization, already the crossover events was passed. So at that moment of fertilization, you became different than your parents, although you are part of your parents.
Yeah, there's that recombination, and no two mushrooms ever in existence have ever been identical. And so we are every bit as special as mushrooms.
So I would like to talk a little bit about the entire concept for the complexity argument that always it's in use. From the perspective of creationists, because everything is extremely complicated, so you cannot actually remove something from that, because it's so complicated, it's interacting in a way that it's mutually existing in the same way, so irreducible complex. In fact, so this notion, this particular argument is completely well destroyed by experiments that we did. What I mean, we already know that there is two types of genes. One type it's called essential genes, and all the rest of the genes. So the essential genes, and we know, by the way, every single essential gene by now. The experiment has been done very simple, just removing every single gene, eliminating every single gene one at a time, and you see is the cell will stay viable or not, it will die. So by doing these experiments, we was able to see approximately, I don't know exactly the number, but it's about, let me say, probably 2,000 genes, something like that. So approximately 2,000 genes are indeed essential genes. And even if you Google it, you can find exactly which genes are those. We know the name of the genes. We know exactly the genes which are essential. So the essential genes, if you remove those genes, cell will die. However, mammalian cells, and we mammalians, and have probably around 30,000 genes. And what is also more curious that mice have almost the same number of genes. Pretty much every mammalian have almost the same number of genes. The genes are almost the same number. Of course, it's a different. If you count exactly, you'll find, for example, 100 or 200 genes different as a number or something unique. But overall, you don't have much difference in the genes in mammalians between the mammalians. Approximately 30,000. Even I'm exaggerating this number. Maybe could be even 25,000. But also, in addition to these genes, there is additional regulation, like a small RNAs, for example. And there are a bunch of small RNAs, all kinds of that. And these small RNAs also play a role of regulations, like siRNA. There is also another type of RNA, which is called long non-codic RNA. So this is a very long RNA, which does not code any protein, and it's not also ribosomal. It's not whatever we know. But it's non-coding long RNA, which also play a role in the regulation and the small RNA regulation. So if you see that and try to make experiment, if you remove something like gene, what will happen with the cell? And we are doing this experiment every single day. I mean, somewhere someone is doing those kinds of experiments because this is part of science, of our science. It's called deletion mutants. So by doing this, you see that the essential genes are not that many. The essential genes are approximately, as I mentioned, around 2,000 genes.
Yeah.
Every single gene from those what is left over, you can remove it. And nothing, the cell will, of course, there is consequence, of course. You cannot say that it will be without consequence, but more or less the cells are viable. You have a living cell even without the gene, even without some of the gene. Not to mention there are lots of genes with redundant functions. For example, the DNA repair genes. Every single DNA repair pathway have a redundant function somewhere. Meaning the way how to recognize the DNA damage, the way how to handle the actual damage. For example, homological versus non-homological DNA repair, or some sort of what way of a non-homological DNA repair will go pathway. There's several pathways of repair. In today, right now, we are no longer talking for repair pathway. of DNA. What we are talking about right now, we are talking more like a repair network way. So, and you have to, it's very difficult to find two genes which you have to remove both. This process is called synthetic lethality. If you remove two genes at the same time, the cell will die, although individually one gene is vital and the another is also vital.
Yeah.
The synthetic lethality right now is a strategy that the people are using for the cancer therapy at the moment.
Yeah, another thing that speaks to sort of like the robustness of the genome is something that, I had never really thought about, but Dan mentioned to me, like Dr. Dan Stern Cardinal.
So my point was just right here, just having essential and non-essential genes, the idea for irreducible complexity is destroyed completely, experimentally. This is experiments which very well shows clearly that the system, the cells, are not irreducibly complex. You can reduce very much, and they are vital.
Yeah, well, so that's what I was about to say, that there's 8 billion people on the planet roughly, and every generation a parent passes down 100 de novo mutations to its offspring. So that means just within the current population, there's 800 billion de novo mutations for a 3.2 haploid genome, or 3.2 billion haploid genome. That means every mutation that is possible has been tried multiple times. And the ones that are, like the ones that don't completely destroy the organism in its development are currently inside of people right now,
Yeah.
Some people.
So, I mean, that was the whole idea when I started to, if you remember the playing, my analogy that was with the playing card, pyramid with the playing cards, that you make layers after layers after layers. And if you remove the bottom card, of course, the entire pyramid will drop down. And this is something like you remove some essential gene from the essential gene. But if you remove something from the top, of course, something might go down, but not the entire pyramid might go down. And what does it mean? You have situation where you have organism which is survived because something is deleted or some mutation has happened, and now this mutation might be in a situation where having another environment, meaning it could be put in a different environment. And sometimes it's happened that the mutated form actually is more adapted to the new environment. So this is why it is reducible complexity, in fact, and also shown experimentally, as I just mentioned. I don't need even to prove that, because there is hundreds of thousands of papers which study the cell by one way or another just by deleting or silence some of the genes.
Yeah, I think in Drosophila, the fruit fly, I think they eliminated something like was it 3/4 of the genome, like one at a time. Of course, there's that interdependence thing, but they eliminated a number of the genes and it still produced a viable fruit fly. So
yeah,
there's a lot of redundancy.
That proved that you can go further in evolution with different genome.
Yeah.
And also there's something else. If you think about let's say that the irreducible complexity is hypothesis, and let's say that if this hypothesis is correct, that means the entire super complicated cells will be assembled out of nowhere, but it will be assembled, but they will be assembled by intelligent designer, of course, in a perfect way. And also, not just in a perfect way, you should not have similarity between the genes in one organism or another organism, if this is correct, if this hypothesis is correct. Guess what? If you compare the genome from different organisms, you will see that the most conservative regions of the DNA are those which is the more important. And by the way, we are using that in science very frequently. How important is some gene that you just find? The first question we are asking, how conservative is this gene? So if the gene is very conservative, obviously it's very important. And that is the fact. So the fact that you have conservative genes makes us ability to make and to build up a phylogenetic tree. You can build up phylogenetic tree of proteins, you can build up phylogenetic tree of genomes, you can build up phylogenetic tree of organisms. We already have phylogenetic tree for everything. And what is based on? It's based on the actual conservative regions. It's very simple. You will not have ability to make a phylogenetic trees if everything is designed, if there is no evolution pathway. If everything is designed at once, everything will be almost perfect. But we see that it's not perfect. The genome is not perfect. The transfer of information is not perfect in the cell. No, there is no perfect process in the cell at all. Especially, I'm study. I mean, so far I was studying DNA replication. I mean, the DNA replication is one of the most dangerous processes in the cell. They constantly try to avoid going in DNA replication because this is a very dangerous process. It generates mutations all the time. Not to mention that if you see the process of DNA replication, you see so many unnecessary things that is undergoing in the DNA replication. How you can explain? See, I'm using the same term. Do you recognize this term?
The what?
Do you recognize the term? How do you explain?
Oh, yeah.
You have to explain.
Otangelo. You're channeling Otangelo.
The same question. How you can explain that the Mother Nature created a polymerase, nucleic acid polymerases, only that extends from 5' to 3' end, and actually it's never been found polymerase that's extend from 3' to 5' end. How you can explain that? In fact, the cell to go in a polymerization from 3' to 5' direction go for hundreds of millions of troubles to make extra, probably between 6 and maybe 15 different another unique proteins to make, just for the heck of to make the replication process from 3' to 5' to undergoing. So it's much easier to make another polymerase which goes from 3' to 5' and another polymerase which goes from 5' to 3'. In that case, everything will be perfect. So you go in both directions of the replication. But no, that's not the case. How you can explain that? The only way to explain that is called evolution.
Bad designer.
Bad designer.
Yeah, bad designer. Yeah.
So I'm saying right now that the actual not just clue, but the evidence and proof for the evolutions are so much robust, so well established. There is no even a single doubt that the evolution was actual the way how everything come to be. I've been in maybe 30 years in the actual real experimental laboratories with scientists, listening hundreds of lectures, all kinds of people, scientists, I never seen even one person that was doubting the evolutionary way. So, I mean, sometimes you can listen from Discovery Institute, the scientists. They said, the scientists start to doubt evolution. Between them became a process of splitting. They fighting each other. Nothing like that at all exists. Nothing at all.
Well, we always have momentary doubt when we're trying to figure out how something works.
Yeah.
You're always like, how does this work? Oh, I see. It could work that way. It could work this way. Whatever.
Yeah.
But these conserved genes, this is like a coding region. This is actually going to end up in a protein. Okay, and there's the orange parts are the parts that are conserved, because if those parts are not the same, the organism dies. So we can look at that.
You're absolutely right. Sorry that I disrupt you. I forgot to say that the most of conservative regions are exactly part of the exons.
Yeah, but if you look at DDX11, if you remember chromosome 2 and standing for truth, famously talk about DDX11L2. Well, the actual DDX11 gene, which is much larger, if you look between a chimpanzee and a human, it's about 98% the same. Every single one of these is the same. But if you look between a mouse and a human, only 52% are the same.
Yeah.
So 48% of that gene kind of doesn't matter. It matters a little bit, but it's obviously very different. But it does the same thing. It performs the same function. So anyway.
And this is another proof for reducible complexity is the actual protein. The proteins, everybody knows, I'm not saying anything new. The proteins are set up and they are kind of build up, if you see, by domains. So every domain contains motifs, exist with motifs, and after that you have domains. So it happened that very different proteins may have absolutely the same domain with a little bit difference. And then sometimes it's very interesting also that sometimes almost identical proteins can have completely different function just because something is slightly different there. For example, the transcription factors very, very frequently happen, like E2F, the famous transcription factor for the cell cycle. Well, there is a E2F, but there is also E2, E27, E28, and those actually have an opposite function to E2F. So they block the cell cycle, not promote it as to E2F. And all kinds of this type. So the fact that we can have ability to see how equal domains exist in a different proteins, it's completely well proven for the reducible complexity. Yeah.
So, Speed, can you put Immutable Destiny's comment back up there really quick?
Yep. Who's he again?
I don't know. He's some guy that just hangs around in the comments,
Yeah, never actually shows up.
If you want more evidence of bad design, look at how many nucleotide variants exist. DNA and RNA bases get mutated in many different ways, and there are many proteins used to try and avoid it. Nuh-uh. God created genes to be perfect. Genetic entropy is the reason for that.
Well, my genes, God created my genes to be pretty perfect. So I don't know about you guys.
My genes were created by Wrangler, not God. So I don't know.
Oh, I see. I mean, I've got the original Adam and Eve variant of for the brain anyway. Mine is it's absolutely fucking perfect. It just
Isn't that what they call the pudding variant?
The what?
The pudding variant.
Yeah, the pudding variant. Yeah.
I thought I wasn't allowed to say pudding, but he is.
Yeah, goddamn it, Leo only I could. Well, he didn't say speed of pudding.
Okay.
I think you said speed of pudding.
There was also something else that Demeter touched on that I wanted to talk about when he mentioned irreducible complexity and how we've demonstrably shown that that just isn't the case. We also know just from what complexity is that there's no such thing as irreducible complexity, because complexity is only ever a pattern that emerges when you increase in scale. I mean, you can look at literally anything that's ever existed or currently does.
Mm-hmm.
It starts simple and goes complex. The whole ass fucking universe started out simple and got more complex. The scale of the universe, the quantum level, despite the fact that many people would disagree because it's just the math is really, really hard, is very, very simple in how it operates. Then you go to the cosmological scale. It's very complex, and we can actually demonstrate this. Most things in quantum theory, which is the single most accurate and well-confirmed theory that humans have ever had to date, these things have been confirmed to the 12th plus decimal place. We still don't know how galaxies form. We still don't know what dark matter is. We still don't know what dark energy is, further showing that the universe at the smallest scales is very, very simple and operates by a very small set of simple rules. And then as you increase in scale, things get more complex. Complexity is a pattern that emerges from the bottom up. It is not a characteristic imposed from the top down, which is what they seem to think it is.
Yeah, the whole point of this was that I was thinking this morning that when you go from a seed or a zygote to an organism, you are seeing something turning into... You're seeing complexity evolve.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter where the goddamn original genome came from. You're still seeing it evolve from something simple to something complex by putting energy into it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, that was the point. So we were. I was going to look at this debate. Anybody up for that?
What debate? Who's debate?
Debate. John Maddox
And
Beta Wolf, Maddox, dickhead, and praise that I am that I am that I am. How many times do you have to say that? I'm not sure. I get stuck on that, and then I start singing the Popeye song, and versus Amy and Brenda on Modern Day Debate.
That was a good. I thought that was a good debate.
I sent you guys a transcript, and what I wanted to do is take a look at John Maddox's opening statement and see if we can identify the argument that he was making for God. Which
science can't explain this, therefore it's God.
I don't even think it was that good. You could write for him. that would have simplified things. Let's see if I can find it here. Yes, I have to. You have to refresh your browser in order. Oh,
huh?
What's that?
What are you talking about? A boot?
I don't know. I was talking about something.
A boot?
A boot?
We could talk about Matt Dillahunty.
Dillahunty. Oh, that was fun this morning.
Is he doing that on purpose, or is that just the fact that he doesn't know how to pronounce things? I don't.
If he doesn't like you, he will pronounce your name in multiple syllables, and kind of the same way that I talk about him when I say.
Oh, like when I call him a Matchbox or something like that?
When I call him Maddox or Maddox. So anyway, that was the first thing that you shouldn't do if you're trying to get a debate with somebody who's 500,000 times more famous than you, is pronounce their name wrong and make fun of them every time you say their name.
When he came into Knox stream and said that he needed all this time and all this research to debate Matt, I'm just like, but you really don't. Watch like 2 or 3 of a person's debates on like 2 or 3 completely different topics, and you'll be able to get an understanding of the cases that they present and how they present them and their style of debate. I only had to watch 2 of John Maddox's debates to understand the way that he goes about discussions. I watched his debate with Erica, and I watched his debate with RJ Downard. I've also seen him, obviously, in other debates, but when we were supposed to have a debate, which is probably never going to happen, on MDD like 2 months ago, I only watched 2 debates of his to figure out his style. And then he said, I mean, if one of you guys were to go debate William Lane Craig, I'm like, dude, I used to parrot William Lane Craig's arguments when I was a theist and a Christian apologist. I would have no problem debating him whatsoever. Whatsoever.
Yeah, so that was I think everybody kept missing the damn point. Dillahunty didn't cancel the debate just because he started a GoFundMe campaign. He canceled the debate because
he saw the kind of person that Maddox is and was like, this guy's
and
not
the way he
worth my
worded it. Yeah. And he called him a charlatan right in his GoFundMe campaign. I mean, he insulted him all over the place. And Dillahunty says, who the hell is this guy? Went and listened to a couple of his debates and said, he's not even worth talking to. Yeah. Anyway, this is John's opening. So let's see if we can hang on a second here. I want to find it on my transcript, which has nothing to do with you guys. But
Praise's debate yesterday, God, he is so atrocious. He's like Darth Dawkins, where he'll bitch and complain if you interject when he's talking, but then all he does is overtalk you. And he needs to learn to either turn his mic down or back away from it.
Yeah. Jay Spatchcock and Manny, Karen, and I are going over that debate tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.
I shared the original study from the journal Science that he was citing at least half a dozen times.
Yeah, I posted
every
all
time
those.
He kept saying, or Gavin kept saying, see, there's no gay gene. I also shared from Science Magazine, Scientific American, and PBS.org a dissemination of that study. It did say there is no one gay gene, but it also said there are multiple genes associated with not just homosexuality, with sexuality in general, hetero or homo. So, I mean, he was so wrong. He was wrong on how he defined polygenic. I literally went to genome.gov, a website that's about the Human Genome Project that Francis Collins directs, the same scientist he kept citing, and defined what polygenic means. He also said he also conflated environmental factors with social factors, and I cited from from Science Direct what environmental factors are and that they're not social factors. He was wrong on everything he said. I think Manny did all right, but could have done better. Yeah.
Well, he was pretty angry with him, I think. Yeah. I mean, if you had listened to that 5-hour atrocity, you would be angry too.
When this guy that can't speak Hebrew is trying to tell somebody who can obviously very fluently speak Hebrew that he knows more about Hebrew than the guy who can fucking speak it, all this does is demonstrate the sheer arrogance of these theists. They don't know how to admit when they're wrong, or that they don't know shit about dick.
Right in the middle of that little fight, I asked Manny, what is your, he said, English is not my first language. I said, what is your first language? Hebrew? And Praise was telling him he didn't know Hebrew.
Yeah.
That was just amazing.
Just asinine. The arrogance is just asinine.
We'll be going over that tomorrow. And I posted all like about 15 different papers from that talk in my description for that debate video. So I did my diligence. Everything we talked about has a link in our description. So
yeah, and you can tell Praise lost that debate because that's what he does. You can hear it in his voice. I don't even have to say anything. Anybody who's heard Praise debate, when he gets that way, when he talks, that's how he knows he's lost.
Yeah, when he's yelling. Okay, let me roll this. Remember, the safe word is foreskin. I don't know if you know why that is, Demeter, but there's a history, and I can't even remember what the hell it is.
Neither can I, but it was funny.
But anyway, if you want me to stop the debate at any point, you have to say very, very loud and forcefully, foreskin. And I don't know where we got it.
So, right. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Well, tonight as we engage in dialogue, I asked the audience, keep in mind we're here to discuss whether or not the classical definition of atheism is reasonable and rational. Specifically, there is no God, period, not just a lack of belief by our opponents. I find it interesting that kind of both of my opponents, but specifically Brenda in the end of her opening was talking about how basically every aspect of naturalism would expand to account for every variable, even post-death. If there was an additional realm of existence, then that would also fall under naturalism and would not be potential evidence for a god. I mean, if at that point, if that's the position you're going to take, I would say there's really no possibility that would ever convince you that perhaps your position is wrong. But to expand on this, let's also keep in mind this is not a debate about a specific god or a variation of any specific religion, which was also something that was pointed out by Amy. No, this is about whether or not it is rational to believe there is no God and there is no external cause required for us to exist. There is nothing but the purely material, and there is nothing beyond this state of existence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our opponents must explain how their worldview, which is utterly dependent on pure deterministic cause and effect, be an explanation for our existence when they have no explanation for what caused all this determinism to spring into being.
Which is basically a precept argument that what is he saying, that natural things can appear naturally?
Well, the point that Brenda was making in her opening, where she said that if anything we don't understand, if we eventually understand it, even if we end up showing that somehow you can experience things after death, is always ever only going to be natural, because it by definition occurs in the natural world. It could only ever be natural. And that's the thing, is that supernatural is a fundamentally incoherent concept to begin with.
Right. Yeah, if we understood something supernatural, naturalism would subsume that. So.
Just like when we didn't know what the fuck lightning was. When we finally understood it, it was still natural.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from. Anyway, so far, all he said is that, let's see, what the hell, there is no external cause required for us to exist, which is, when you think about physics and when you think about the expansion and whatever, we lost walking fish. Where'd you go, fish?
Oh, my internet gave out.
Okay. Anyway, so I mean, when you get down to what happened before the Big Bang, I keep saying that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. There is no before the Big Bang. And there is a lot of speculation about what could it be before the Big Bang, but if we break it down, there is no, it's like saying, well, what's north of the North Pole? The question does not make sense. There is nothing before it. There's an earliest absolute moment in the history of the universe, and then that's it. We will be able to understand that moment fully. We will be able to understand how the universe evolves from that moment, but there isn't a before it or a cause of it.
Yep.
And another thing about causes is they think that the law of causality, as they do with anything that we describe as a law, is something that exists everywhere, absolutely all the time for everything. And that's not the case. What we call the laws of physics are not literal laws that the universe says, oh, well, we got to follow these laws. I got to conserve my energy. That's not what it is. It's not something that supervenes the universe that tells it how to work. It's the things that we observe to consistently stay the same in the universe. And this is why science says that it never proves things, because there's always that thing that could come along to show that what we thought we knew was wrong. And we know that causality is, just like complexity, a pattern that emerges as you increase in scale in the universe, which is why at the quantum level of reality, things like weak radioactive decay, things like tunneling, things like vacuum fluctuations do not have a cause.
Yeah. Okay. So see if he's got anything else here. It gets a little choppier now.
Must explain how chaos becomes order, how the abstract becomes actualized, how laws become realized, and how the immaterial becomes material. Now, on our side of
does that make any sense?
No.
It didn't make sense to me, but I also don't have context.
I want to just mention one important note. Material and immaterial is very frequently used today as a state that something is material and something else it's not material.
Yeah.
by itself, this is a completely wrong modern idea and concept. From today's perspectives of quantum mechanics, there is nothing like material or non-material. Everything that exists in the universe is time, field, and in space. Of course, that doesn't mean it's three-dimensional space, or it is usually considered as 11-dimensional space. So everything is field. There is no material. If something, for example, elementary particle like electron, for example, what is electron? I mean, this is a ripple in electron field. That's what it is. So we are not material from the point of view of quantum mechanics. We are just form of ripples which interacts with each other. So it's an old term. It's a very old term, and nobody should use it, material or immaterial.
Yeah, where it comes from, the material-immaterial dichotomy comes from we're apes, and we understand stuff because we can pick up rocks and chip them together, and then we can also think about a rock in our heads and talk to somebody about a rock when there's no rock there. And because of that, we came up with this idea that there's some kind of mental substance, and it is so ingrained into our thinking today that we'll talk about abstracts and immaterial, and I think it's a false dichotomy, and you're constantly folding your human apeness into the conversation when you're actually trying to talk about physics, and it doesn't make any sense.
And that's the thing with physics, especially with quantum mechanics, is intuition needs to be thrown the fuck out the window because it's not going to help you.
That's just
and that's the problem.
Yeah.
People try to understand these things within the framework of human intuition, which is going to lead you down the entirely wrong road. And it's as simple as that. Quantum mechanics is entirely non-intuitive. That's part of the reason why it's always stated that we don't understand it and this and that, because it doesn't fit into our intuitive understanding of the world that we see around us. It just doesn't. And people try to make it fit into that box, and it's not going to fit into that box.
Yep. Okay, let's see where the beta wolf goes. What's next?
The equation, these questions are easily answered, not by magic, but by the insertion of intelligent agency that is in existence prior to the formation of our universe. Obviously, in every other aspect of cause and effect, this is the
foreskin.
I would say that is magic. If you're inserting this like non-material deity that existed before time and space, and then poofed it into existence.
And right, what Tom Jump does, which drives them crazy, is Tom Jump says, well, I have something natural that has nothing to do with the mind that I'm going to insert and presuppose causes everything. What do you say about that? And they say, blah, 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 blah. It's like...
And then what they do is say, well, it can't be something that's material and natural because it has to be spaceless and timeless and immaterial. And I said, what you just did is you described something that does not exist anywhere, does not exist for any amount of time, and is not made of anything. Well, let's examine that. If something just doesn't exist at all, it will not exist anywhere, it will not exist for any amount of time, and it will not be made of anything. So how do you make a distinction between this category of things that we call supernatural, or that you're calling supernatural, and the category of things non-existent if they have the same exact fundamental properties, or rather lack thereof?
I just realized that Erica is moderating this. How did James bribe her into moderating Maddox? I know it was likely against her will.
She was nice to him.
Oh, she's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really nice.
Yep. Amy handles that whole timeless, spaceless bullshit behind God.
Yeah, she pretty much says the same thing that I did. She says, we have a word for this. It's called non-existent.
So Leo, did you watch the whole quantum mechanics part when they were talking about
Yes.
quantum observation and all?
Yes, and I asked Praise. It was the very last question that was asked. And Erica butchered it, but that's not a problem. She doesn't. She's biology, not physics. So the question was, does Praise know what an eigenbasis is and what happens when an eigenbasis projects to one particular eigenstate? And what that is wave function collapse.
Yeah.
You don't need consciousness.
Right.
At all. Ever. Anywhere. Anybody asserting that straightforwardly does not understand the math. And Praise admitted he doesn't know what those things are. He does not have the knowledge of linear algebra, which is ubiquitous in quantum mechanics and Brockett notation. Does not have the knowledge of that. Why the fuck are you commenting on this if you don't even understand the basics of the basics of the basics? Yeah, he doesn't. I asked him in his after show, do you know what a function of a variable is, f of x? And he said no. And I'm just like, because I was trying to explain to him where do we get the word collapse from when we say that the wave function collapses? And the best thing is if you have you have a function, well, just make a simple parabola, that's a function. And if you make a measurement or if you have interaction with the outside environment, instead of the function looking kind of like a parabola, what it does is it goes straight. Oh, there's the observation straight. So that wave function collapses into that eigenstate. This is very, very simple for anybody who understands the math. And I don't even understand the math that well, but I can figure this out. So the question, for me, it comes down to how the fuck can you comment on something? If you don't even understand the basics of college algebra, you certainly don't understand
high school
algebra. F of x isn't even.
Yeah, F of x, that's college algebra, algebra 2. I took that my freshman year.
Yeah.
Most people take it like junior or senior year, if not in college. If you don't even understand that, you certainly don't understand trigonometry and calculus. You certainly don't understand advanced calculus like partial differential equations, and you certainly don't understand linear algebra. So in what way are you qualified to comment on this, and what imperative do I have to listen to anything that you say?
So Iron Charioteer's imitation of Maddox says, pizza sleeps fast over the west, therefore the mutt.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'll tell you the dilemma, the meteorite dilemma. So, and creationists versus atheists should answer this particular dilemma. So just imagine our beautiful world, planet Earth, and cosmic event happened that a huge meteorite is going toward the Earth in the direction of the orbit of the Earth. The meteorite is quite big, probably a few kilometers, let me say 50 kilometers, which is good enough to destroy the entire world. Mm-hmm. And here is the dilemma. What will happen? Either God hand will somehow kick this particular meteorite because our life is so precious and God wants to preserve us, or this meteorite will just continue and will smash the earth and destroy the entire life that we know. So what is the answer?
It's a little morbid, but...
Makes a good point, though.
Yeah.
And that's why when they always talk about genetic entropy, I always say, so why does God want our genetic information to decay and break down so that we get diseases and disorders and everything like that? Why? Why would he want that?
Well, there's a potential theistic answer to this. And this potential theistic answer is because we are in the planet Earth to learn. So to learn in a God's way. So that's why he created suffering to us in order we to learn. So
Okay.
This is the theistic answer to this. But it doesn't make sense to destroy 95% of the entire living species that has been created from the God and destroyed 95% during the entire history and left with modern 5% or something like that. So
Okay, let's see. You want to move on?
And let me know when we do a SNATA, because Mr. Parker wants to come in and have a little chat with us. He's doing a project on fascism and everything, and I said that it would be really good for him to come in and talk to all of us, because I'm sure we can all inform him.
I see
on
here
that.
Bart Ehrman. So I highly recommend to everyone to read Bart Ehrman. He's a cool guy.
Oh yeah,
And-
I read his one book on the historical Jesus.
I
That was a good book.
I have almost all of his books. So he's a really very important person. If you want to study the history of Bible,
Mhm.
which is absolutely fabulous topic, I like it. So Bart Ehrman is top number one.
Yeah, and if
Who's
anybody
the
reads his
Parker
book,
guy?
The Historical Jesus, you will understand why the vast majority of New Testament scholars and Antiquities scholars
Exactly.
accept that there's a historical Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a historical Jew, yes.
Yep.
Nobody doubt that.
It's like Santa Claus. There was a Saint Nicholas, and he did give toys to kids, but did he have a sleigh and live in the North Pole and have magical reindeer that can fly around? No. This was a
No.
story of a real person that
What?
over generations was highly mythologized. It's the same for Jesus. The only reason I think so many atheists want to deny a historical Jesus is because if there was no Jesus, then boom, that right there in and of itself is the end of Christianity. And they just want to make it easy. Oh, well, there was no Jesus, boom, your religion's moot. Instead of actually having more complex conversations about the structure of Christianity and digging in deep to show the inconsistencies in it. They want to be fucking lazy and say, oh, well, there was no Jesus, so you're wrong. Okay, you're not a professional, and I will take the word of the overwhelmingly vast majority of them because I'm not one.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So highly recommended.
Yes.
Nobody deleted any comments, Ikarus. I'm not sure. YouTube,
Probably YouTube, yeah.
yeah, YouTube won't let me comment, say half the things I want to say. I don't know what's wrong with YouTube and me. They don't like some of my comments. I don't know.
The Mr. Parker guy you were talking about, though?
What about him?
Oh, I said, who is that?
He's been on. I think he's got his own YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've seen him.
Quite sure he does. But he's been on some after shows and live streams and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
The NT Review podcast studied.
Yep,
under
there he is,
Burma.
right there in the chat.
Oh, who is?
Mr. Parker just said, "Hey, y'all."
Hey, y'all. Okay.
I don't see it, but maybe that's
It's on
just
the
me.
screen.
Yeah, I think we'll probably do something tonight. If I end up getting some sleep before then, I'll feel like doing it. So we will.
I want to
probably
do it tomorrow night as well. You know.
Yeah,
What's
'cause
that?
he did say at 11 p.m. tonight he's going to be on Knox channel. He's having a talk with him. So
Okay.
Okay, so we could do it. Well, we go on at 9 Central. Is he Central?
And I don't know, but I told him that we go on at 9 o'clock. So
9 Central.
Or if you want to do SNATA on Sunday at 9
No.
p.m.
We could do it on Sunday. It's up to you guys. We got to decide.
Okay.
I'm
we'll
open
decide.
for whatever. So
Sundays just generally work better for me than Saturdays.
there are
Yeah, well-
also notable scholars that deny inflationary theory. That doesn't mean that it's wrong. In fact, Paul Steinhardt, one of the founders of inflationary theory, rejects it. But the overwhelmingly vast majority of cosmologists accept inflationary theory, which fits well with the data that we have. It is the exact same thing with Jesus, the historical Jesus. Yes, there are some notable historians that reject the idea. Most of them don't, and the data that we have on the historical Jesus fits well with all the other data that we have about that time. One of the biggest things is that the early Christians were talking about Jesus decades before the Gospels were written. They were obviously talking about somebody.
Exactly.
Who were they talking about?
But where is that written down? I mean, do we have non-biblical sources for that?
Yes.
Them talking about Jesus? Okay.
Yeah.
There's like early letters and stuff.
Tacitus,
Not
Josephus,
in a
Pliny the
full-
Younger mentions early Christianity. Early Christians. Thalos mentions early Christian. Yes, and people say, well, they try to bring up, well, some of this stuff is not. And it's like, some of it's not like 100% proof, and nobody's saying that it is. But there seems to be a recurring theme here that there was a historical Jesus.
Well, not in the first 100 years. There is no non-Christian source
Yeah.
for
Yes,
Jesus
that is correct.
after the first 100 years. And by the way, one of the, indeed, he was a historical person because Paul, actually, he mentioned that he met his brother.
I'm wearing my favorite shirt, Ian.
Yeah, he met his brother James, and he was to. They were those two or three guys. They was together about 2 weeks in Jerusalem, and obviously they discussed about Jesus and the Last Supper. So this is a very important notion that yes, indeed, that was a historical. There was indeed a historical person, Jesus.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is Bart Ehrman not only has a book out on it, but he's got The Great Courses. If anybody knows what that is, he's got The Great Courses on it. I've taken the Old Testament The Great Courses that's taught by Amy Jill Levine, who also accepts a historical Jesus. I've done ones by David Brocky, who accepts a historical Jesus, Luke Timothy Johnson, who accepts a historical Jesus, Bart Ehrman, who accepts a historical Jesus, even Robert Price, who does not accept a historical Jesus, has straightforwardly said that opinion, because that's essentially what it is an opinion, goes against the vast majority of the scholars.
Ian just informed us that if we want to do Saturday Night at the Atheist on Sunday, we have to do it tonight because it's Sunday.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
Proving it again that the Earth is not flat.
What?
well, you see, it's just because the solar or the sun goes in rings around the Earth on the flat surface.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Ian Chen. I talk to him once in a while, but I still don't believe. I'm a skeptic, man.
He's a poet.
Okay, let's play the rest of John's argument and see if we can find his argument. I want to find his argument. Okay, go on.
Rational conclusion, and proving how this cause exists has absolutely nothing to do with it being irrational to conclude that there was no prior cause needed, nor that there is overwhelming evidence which makes this not evidence which makes this the overwhelming logical and plausible deduction. We observe this requirement in basically every facet of our lives on a daily basis. Yet atheists, like our opponents, claim it is rational to insist that in this most fundamental of instances, our very existence, the existence of our universe, and every facet of life, that somehow this is not needed. Now, our opponents operate that in spite of this being the most rational conclusion, somehow, in spite of the growing evidence this creator entity is required for our existence, that somehow their materialism of the gaps worldview will somehow explain all of this. Now, as you consider throughout the evening, these different arguments, the debates, the back and forth, the dialogue, ask yourself a simple question. If you were presented with adamant arguments that the computer, the phone, the tablet that you are currently using to watch this debate somehow came into existence without the necessity of the intelligent agent, and that was the claim being presented, would you consider the person making this assertion to be reasonable and rational? If they told you it was just natural for this to have occurred, would you think that they were sane? If they told you anything is possible with enough time, would you ever conclude that somehow this would explain the existence of the technology in question?
Wait, foreskin.
So ultimately, as we ponder...
All right. Anything that humans make is natural because humans made it and humans are natural.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like even under the Christian worldview, that's just a bad analogy. It's stupid.
We also know that there are things that occur naturally that are significantly more complex than cell phones and laptops and tablets.
Oh, yeah.
But the whole section prior to that, I mean, did you parse any of that? I mean, what was that a reason? Was there a sentence there? and then
I don't know if the sentence is finished. It's been going for a little while.
I think he needs
the same old argument about if you have information, you have intelligent designer.
Yeah.
So this is I disproved that hundreds of times. I mean, come on. Do we have PCR? I'm saying again, do we have PCR in function? Yeah, it's every day. It's using a tool. What does it mean? You create information in PCR machinery. Machinery. So
Yeah.
I mean, how is that a cogent argument if we know how cell phones
fucking
are made?
Ikarus.
What's that?
The comment from Ikarus, this phone was made in China on it, or this phone with made in China on it is definitely not made in China. It must have just appeared.
oh, that's
Yeah.
I love the sarcasm we have in our side chats.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then I think he wraps it up here in about 2 minutes, and then I think it goes on with Praise's argument, which we could delve into. Let's just wrap John here.
Under all of these different facets of existence, you have to ask yourself, even with an infinite amount of time and an infinite number of universes to work with, you would probably not conclude all of those pieces could create themselves through undirected process. However, it would be entirely rational to conclude that if there's an intelligent agent that could control this, then yes, they could come together.
At about 4 minutes.
In light of all of that, why is it remotely rational to conclude that you, something infinitely more advanced than any piece of technology that you have in your house, your car, or your hands right now, could possibly come into existence without the requirement of the external intelligent agent, in this context, God, which placed all of this possibility into motion? And I yield.
That's it. So stars are like extremely advanced generators of energy. And how could that possibly come into existence without an intelligent?
You know what the funny thing is? When what were they? Were they doing an open mic for something, or I can't really remember. But LPP had something going on his channel. And it was his 800 subs party, I think it was. And I was in the side chat because he refused twice to admit me into the show. And there were people saying that we don't know how stars form, that we've never watched that occur naturally. And while we've never watched from start to finish how a star forms, we've seen steps of that process. We don't live long enough. We don't live for 13,000 years. I'm just going to pull a number out of my ass to watch a molecular cloud of cold, or a cloud of cold molecular gas collapse and gravitationally accrete and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. But we know that's how it happens. The problem is these people cannot accept that we understand things because they so desperately want to insert their God. Yes, we know how fucking stars form. Yes. We also call stars factories, but it's not a literal fucking factory for you, Altangelo. It's not. We call them factories because they happen to create newer, heavier elements, which is really just a result of the fundamental quantum mechanical processes, the tunneling processes that the protons undergo.
Yeah, that's a C-tier argument that started back with Dwayne Gish and early Kent Hovind. So we're looking at the 70s and 80s, which back then our understanding of astronomy was substantially worse than it is now. And they were like, well, we've never seen a star form, so therefore God made all the stars, and then all the stars we see today are the original stars. We've only ever seen stars explode and collapse and all that other stuff. It's a stupid argument.
Mm-hmm. I think, let's see, Praise's argument is a whole nother matter. It's a precept argument.
Literally.
And doesn't make a hell of a lot of, but I want to see if this goes. There was the part about the brain, about being able to map the visual thing of the brain.
Finish what you're saying, but leave that comment from Parker up.
Oh, okay. And anyway, there was a. Well, go ahead and comment on that.
Well, so this one guy, what's his name? Jim Benton. Is his name. He was in some of LPP's streams frequently, said that energy and matter aren't the same thing. And I'm just like, yeah, Jim clearly does not understand relativistic physics, because I can, in one simplistic equation, demonstrate they are, in fact, exactly the same fucking thing. E equals mc squared, which actually is a simplistic generalization of a much more advanced relativistic equation. I don't even know if I can remember it. What is it? E squared equals, oh Jesus, what is it, like E squared equals P squared minus MC squared, I believe, is the true relativistic equation. And then E equals MC squared. And I might not have that exactly right. It's something like that. E equals MC squared is a generalization of that. But yes, energy and matter are the same thing. In the same way that water and ice are the same thing. So
yeah, it has something to do with substituting like the lambda over 4 pi. Like, oh god, what's the wave equation that has momentum, and you're able to like substitute the momentum equation into something else, and everything just cancels out. I forget what it is though.
The reduced Planck's constant, h over 2 pi.
Yeah, I know that. I was saying like you're able. I don't know. There's some sort of like canceling that goes on whenever you put the what is it? H over mv is, or like h over p is the wave characteristic of like whatever thing you're analyzing, right?
Yeah, that it seems to me what you're trying to talk about is the distinction between
Well, I was just saying, like, they get to E equals MC squared by like plugging in, like, for that equation and using wave characteristics to show that matter and weight.
E equals MC squared is what we use for invariant mass. So anything that would have what's considered a rest mass. And then the other equation, E squared equals P squared minus MC squared, I think that's what it is, I might have that wrong, is relativistic mass. And so that's why P, momentum, has to be included in there. Like everybody says, oh, well, how does a photon have energy if it doesn't have mass? Because energy can also take the form of momentum, not just mass. And that's why photons have to travel at the speed of light, because they have to have that momentum, because they have no rest mass.
Yeah. But, you know, it's literally just energy equals mass times X constant, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so the part about the brain, I'm not sure if this is it.
Please do.
So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming both of you operate from a strict materialist perspective, and that there is no such thing as abstract immaterialism.
Yeah, here we go.
I believe in abstractions, but I only know the material world. I'm open to other ideas, but I don't know.
So is the abstract something that can be materialized, or is it immaterial until it is
an abstraction? So if you have an abstraction, like I want a sandwich, you can imagine the sandwich, but the sandwich doesn't become real until you go in real life and you make the sandwich.
Okay, so but is the thought therefore immaterial and does not yet exist?
The thought is material. The thought is an electrical chemical signal running through your brain.
So you're saying that the meaning is actualized through electronics, or through electrical
meaning
signal?
is actualized through your muscles. You have to actually physically go and like get.
Well, no, but it has meaning before you take that action.
As a concept, it does have meaning.
Right. So that abstract doesn't exist yet in the physical realm, correct?
It's just an abstract. It exists in your brain.
Thoughts are physical.
Can we extract that from your brain? Can you show that?
Yeah.
You could probably hook me up to an MRI scanner. You can probably watch it going whoop, 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 whoop.
No, that just shows electrical activity.
Yeah, here's all the bullshit about the. Yep.
So first off, I did get it backwards. It's E squared minus PC squared equals MC squared. But can we extract that? Yes, we can. I don't know how many articles I could cite right now where we have taken what somebody is thinking and had a computer actually say the word that they're thinking. We've also mapped in the brain where memories are. We can also take on computers what somebody is thinking and figure out what it is they're thinking, a very rudimentary image. So if somebody's thinking of a screwdriver, you'll get and obviously it'll be very rudimentary, but you will get a depiction of the screwdriver on the brain. We can also look at what people are thinking, how they're thinking about things, what they're thinking about, and see different parts of the brain firing. 100% fact that thoughts are physical. Now, everybody says, well, no, that's the electrical signals. Thoughts are electrical signals. It's not that electrical signals and thoughts are two different things that are related. No. Thoughts are the electrical signals. They're not caused by the electrical signals. They are the electrical signals in the brain. Full stop.
suggesting that if the God in question has to exist.
Can you demonstrate in quantum mechanics?
Can you? Okay, so you are stating the. So I'm assuming. You? Okay, so you are stating that we understand the syntax in which that memory is stored, and that we can reconstitute it into a piece of technology that we have in order to visualize the memory.
Yeah.
Please tell. Where is that?
I'd say there's nothing that says we can't do that.
No. Has that been
I'm not
done?
sure.
Has
I'm a
that
little bit
been
different.
done? We have to make a clear distinction here.
Yes, I can share one.
That has not been done.
4.
Can you demonstrate in quantum mechanics that reality is fundamentally physical? Can you demonstrate in quantum mechanics?
There's somewhere Brenda gets a paper, and John says, I'm literally looking at the paper, and I can't figure out where that is exactly. Is it before this, or?
I don't know. I don't remember. But can I demonstrate that things in quantum mechanics are physical? Yes, they're represented by physical quantities.
Yeah, we're going to get into that QM stuff here in a minute. But on this brain stuff, let me roll ahead from right here and see what happens.
Can I quote something really quick?
Sir. Quote. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I'm going to figure out which one I want to quote from here. So here from Science Daily, quote, in a scientific first, Columbia neuroengineers have created a system that translates thought into intelligible, recognizable speech. By monitoring someone's brain activity, the technology can reconstruct the words a person hears with unprecedented clarity. This breakthrough, which harnesses the power of speech synthesizers and artificial intelligence, could lead to new ways for computers to communicate directly with the brain. It also lays the groundwork for helping people who cannot speak, such as those living with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or ALS. Like, was that what? That's what Hawking had. Stephen Hawking had, I believe. Lou Gehrig's disease. Is that the same thing? Isn't that what it's colloquially known as, Lou Gehrig's, or am I thinking of something else?
I want to say yes, but I'm not totally sure.
Okay, don't quote me on that, people. Or recovering from stroke regain their ability to communicate with the outside world. End quote.
Yes, it is.
And I have 6. I have one from Science Daily, one from Scientific American, one from CBS News that talks about studies done at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, one from engineering.mit.edu, one from another, and 2 more from New Scientist, all talking about the fact that we can take what's going on in the brain and translate that into stuff on a computer. Yes, we can literally read people's thoughts. We've done it numerous times in numerous ways. Every aspect of human cognition is 100% physical. There is not a single shred of any data anywhere suggesting anything different. Not one.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find this.
You are stating that we understand the syntax in which that memory is stored, and that we can reconstitute it into a piece of technology that we have in order to visualize the memory.
Yeah.
Please tell. Where is that?
I'd say there's nothing that says we can't do that.
No. Has that been
I'm not
done?
sure.
Has
I'm a
that
little bit
been
different.
done? We have to make a clear distinction here, because that has not been done, and B, that is just showcasing the fantasy land that you're living in. If you think that we have actually been able to reconstruct the visual representation of a memory.
Yep.
When you're done that, I have a question for you, John.
I think it comes up here.
There is no answer.
No, I'm waiting for y'all to back up your claim.
So, Amy, can you demonstrate in quantum mechanics that reality is fundamentally physical or material?
I don't really demonstrate things in quantum mechanics. I'm not a physicist.
I can do that, though.
So why are you making the claim then?
I know.
That
reality is fundamentally physical material.
because that's all the evidence we have right now. That's what all the evidence points to. We could have different evidence.
So what? Okay. What is that evidence then?
What do you mean? What is that evidence?
You just
it's called
made a
the
claim.
Natural material world, as in if we were to actually, it's actually in the description. So if we were to find your God, our definition of the natural world would expand to include your God. Supernatural is some BS politically correct term.
So you're suggesting that if the God in question has to exist external to the universe in order for it to come into existence. That is now
External to
somehow
the
part of it.
universe. If we were to discover the God, it would become part of the natural universe. Yes, the supernatural is just a fuzzy word so you can hide things in it.
No, he can simulate this universe if he wants to. This reality, it could be a projection of his mind. This is what quantum mechanics has discovered.
Speaking of his mind, let's go back to the dreams. Is your deity dream?
Can I go back? Can I back
I'd
up
like to stick on dreams. I want to learn about your deity's brain.
Does our deity play chess? I mean, so those are nonsense. That's a nonsensical question.
Does your deity play chess? Does he? Chess is a real game. I could play chess. Am I stronger than your god?
You're anthropomorphizing our god, and you're already misrepresenting our position.
You got it right. Anthropomorphizing your god. That is exactly what I'm doing. Because if it's just a natural phenomena, then it's not a being, and we're done.
Right.
No, that's begging the question, though. You're assuming that there's no ontology that supersedes this ontology.
Give me evidence.
I'll be right back.
I just gave you one. Quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics says what? Quantum mechanics says what about it?
It demonstrates that reality is mentally fundamental.
No, that's not what Quran said.
Mentally fundamental. I'd like a physicist to make that claim.
Sure, we actually have the observer's effect to demonstrate that. I mean, we have actual principles out there. We've demonstrated through the delay quantum eraser experiment. We have several experiments that validate
that everything
that.
is a material.
None of that is true. The delay quantum experiment doesn't prove that minds influence reality. It doesn't prove that.
Yes, again, it does because we have the observer's effect.
No, it doesn't. So I wanted to support my claim about dreams, and I posted a link here in the chat here to Neural Decoding of Visual Imagery During Sleep by Horikawa in 2013. They say our findings demonstrate that specific visual experiences during sleep is represented by brain activity patterns shared by stimulus perception, providing the means to uncover the subjective contents of dreaming using objective neural measurement.
Okay, so again, they do not understand the meaning or have the ability to visualize what it is. All they're being able to do is represent where a dream brain activity is occurring. And
no, that's false.
I'm literally looking at the paper right now. And
no, you're not.
Okay,
I have a hard time believing he can read many papers. What?
I'm literally looking at the paper right now.
He's not.
Literally.
He might be looking at a paper, but it's not hers.
Well, he might be looking at it.
No, he was literally looking at it. He just wasn't fucking reading it.
He has a mental block from going past the abstract.
Yeah. Okay, the thing about your vision is that there is an actual, what they call an architectonic map at the back of your brain. If they unfolded your cortex, the primary visual cortex, unfolded it, flattened it out, they can actually see an actual map of what you're seeing, so that the upper left-hand part is correlated with the upper left-hand field of your vision. And so what they found is that they can hook electrodes up to this, and they can detect stuff, and they got a picture of a guy imagining an airplane, and they could see kind of an outline of the airplane. It was very fuzzy. So what these guys did is they took that data and they fed it into a bunch of AI, including Google image recognition, and they were able to, with 60 to 70% accuracy, figure out which image the guy was dreaming about at the time, and they mapped it. And and they can also, because what happens when you imagine something that you have seen is neurons from the front of your brain feed into the back, into your occipital lobe, which is on the back of your brain. If you put your hand behind your head, that sort of thing, and cup that, bump, that's your occipital lobe. And they've been able to actually see images that you imagine, because you feed back and you reproject that visual image into your primary visual cortex, and you re-see it. 90% of the neurons that are connected to your visual cortex come from the front of your brain, from the imagined part of your brain. 10% come from your eyes. So basically you fill it in. So they've been able to do a lot of work with that. And they've also, this paper addresses, they've hooked it up in rats to the hippocampus, to the temporal lobe. And they've been able to watch a rat dream about walking through a maze. and they can figure out where he is in the maze, basically. So John is full of shit here. They've made a lot of progress. But now, can we tell what you're thinking about? Like, if you're thinking about unicorns with purple blobs on them and maybe 3 horns instead of 1, they're not. Of course, they're not going to be able to do that. But if we had enough sensors that we could get 1 millisecond, 1 neuron information out of your brain, and we could map that into a computer. And if we had a terrorist and we were interrogating them and we showed them a bunch of movies of like a school, an office building, a freeway, and a bomb and whatever, we could play that back and then start asking him where he put the bomb. And if the image of a school came into his mind, with the computer, we would be able to figure out, aha, he put it in the school. So, I mean, that kind of technology is about 10 years away from us right now, maybe 20.
Can I read another really, really quick quote from
Yeah.
news.mit.edu on memory?
Yes.
But are engrams conceptual, or are they a physical network of neurons in the brain? In a new MIT study, researchers used optogenetics to show that memories really do reside in very specific brain cells, and that simply activating a tiny fraction of brain cells can recall an entire memory. Explaining, for example, how Marcel Proust could recapitulate his childhood from the aroma of a once beloved Madeleine cookie. End quote.
Good. Okay. So we get to a QM part here. So did you hear the last QM part, basically?
The one where he's talking about how quantum mechanics somehow shows that reality isn't physical?
Right.
Yeah, I did.
I think Maddox buckles down on that here in a bit. Let's see. Well, maybe I guess we're ahead of that.
The funny thing is, literally everything in quantum mechanics is represented as physical operators. So it physical operators.
Apparently, Maddox and Praise both believe that it has been proven that you have to have a conscious mind in order to have a collapse of the wave function. And Amy kind of drills into it a little bit here. These two did really good. I don't understand how Maddox and Praise believe they won this debate.
Who the fuck knows?
They think they just smashed them. And
Amy seems like she's kind of clapping them. Like she's having fun with it, which is fun.
She's having fun.
Amy's fucking brilliant. I like her a lot. And Brenda, when I watched this debate, I was so fucking impressed with Brenda. She was calm, concise, succinct. She brought up a paper when she was asked. She quoted right from it. She is a brilliant, brilliant woman.
Yep. Pretty cool. Okay.
It is not suggesting they can actually visualize.
For some other stuff, once I wrap up here, I'll send you a lot of links if you want them.
Oh, I'll put all the links that you're sending in a description, Leo. Okay. In our description.
Yeah, the researchers were able to predict what images the volunteers had seen with a 60% accurate rate, rising to 70% with around 15 specified items, including men.
Knowing where a piece of data is being stored has absolutely zero to do with whether or not you can actualize that data, number one. And number two, as I specified at the beginning of this whole back and forth on this topic, I asked you if there was interaction with the intelligent agent, in this context, the humans, in order to be able to determine what this data was, meant, semantic meaning of, et cetera, and you literally just admitted that's exactly what they had to do. So the point I was making about the meaning of the data requiring the intelligent agent in order to be understood and tracked and interpreted, you literally just supported my fundamental point that was being made, which was you required an intelligent agent in order to do this.
Yeah, that's irrelevant. So what they do is they simply put people to sleep. They predict, they ask them on waking what it is they dreamed about, and then the researchers, based on their MRI scans, can...
Okay, Brenda goes too far, actually. At this point, there are some things that are not supported, and I think Amy backs her out. I'm going to fast forward through that if that's
what
okay.
What did she just say?
To predict with 60 to 70% accuracy.
She's right about that.
They actually dreamed based on the MRI readings.
Okay, did what I just say not?
She's overstating it.
Yeah, it didn't. It was irrelevant.
No, your inability to comprehend the point that's being made or the denial of it, which is indicative of the irrationality and unreasonableness of the atheist, is being.
So he's got to make everything about the irrationality of the atheist, and they just keep stating that over and over again without really coming up with a decent argument.
I feel like Maddox thinks if he can just string enough big words together, people will get confused and not address anything he says.
I think it confuses him, and he feels that he's addressed it. I mean, if you can put enough words together to confuse yourself, you pretty much won the argument, right?
True.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Being put on full display here because you're apparently not comprehending the entire point that's being made, which is how would they have known what was possibly going on in that dream state versus awake state if the human with the intelligence was not able to tell them what the first one was? Oh my God.
Well, the way that you validate,
yes or no.
You validate your experiment.
Does it require the intelligent agent to exist prior to? Yes or no?
I'm talking. The way you validate the experiment is you ask the subjects, "What was your dream about?" And then they looked at the data, and that.
I think we can skip ahead a little bit. Okay.
Confirm.
Both for the
are required
material data. Yes.
Put a paper out showing that there's a distinction between arbitrary and deliberative thoughts. So you're attributing.
What in the hell paper is that? A distinction between arbitrary and deliberative thoughts. Does anybody have any idea what that means?
Nope.
Okay.
Arbitrary thought there might just be like a passing thought. Deliberative is meaning like you're trying to think about something.
I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Deliberative and arbitrary thoughts. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
No. I suppose I could Google that shit and see what happens. I don't know. I mean, do they listen to themselves?
These two arbitrary thoughts.
No.
So what? So what? We still have deliberative thoughts.
The point is that they can use scans to read off what somebody dreamed during the evening.
What is required for that to occur?
Can I ask
you need scientists to do experiments. Congratulations.
Are there in every aspect of that experiment, is there abstracts that have had to be actualized? Yes or no?
What?
Abstracts have to be.
That's just gibberish.
Abstracts actualized too.
I
So
don't
it's kind
understand
of
what the fuck.
Gibberish.
Were there ideas that did not yet exist? The sandwich that had not yet been made.
This is just gibberish.
No. Well,
he said ideas that did not yet exist.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
I don't know. Anyway,
I think collectively, like all four of us plus one or two of the people in the debate just said what whenever he said that.
I know, and gibberish is like, my goodness. This guy can cobble some words together like a squirrel.
To comprehend
I call it Maddox speaking in tongues.
I think we're getting
either you're in full scale denial. I know you're not stupid, so you're obviously just turning off the rational portion of your brain. So, per the earlier point, which was the sandwich has not yet been made, it's just an idea in your mind, but has not yet come into existence. The same logic applies to the creation of the technology and the thought and the concept of how they might be able to interpret the or posit what was being dreamed about.
But if they can.
Can you understand now why Maddox doesn't want to debate him? I mean,
doesn't want to debate who?
He's talking about Dylan.
Or not Maddox. Matt doesn't want to debate Maddox. Yeah. I mean, it's like their names are too similar, So anyway.
You have to have all this stuff that has not yet occurred yet,
and they can't.
It has not yet occurred, and then they create it. They create something that does not yet exist.
What the?
Like, are you not comprehending the fact that we have immaterial becoming material?
That's just not the experiment at all. You're not understanding the experiment. What you do is you put people to sleep. They go to sleep. They dream about something. You record that with the MRI. And then you can predict what they dream. And the way you validate that prediction is by asking the subject, "What did you dream about?"
Okay, the paper that you're referring to literally had a preset of data from scans of people awake when they were talking to people about different things and being able to record where memories of different concepts were being stored in the brain and different brainwave patterns. Then they were doing the exact same thing. They were scanning them while asleep and then doing a comparison of those brain waves to see if a memory pattern that matched from something that they already knew about.
Yes, that's
were
how
equal.
neural correlates of consciousness work.
Oh,
She is 100% correct.
Oh well, neither
Maddox
one of
doesn't
them
know what the word neural correlate means.
No, he doesn't. But neither one of them are quite accurate on this because that technology is something we have not yet arrived at because we don't have millisecond resolution. Millisecond single neuron resolution is almost required for what they're talking about. And basically you go through and you have to run the subject through something because everybody's brain is going to is going to store the concept of a circle or a carrot differently. So you have to basically you have to induce that thought in their mind before you can map that, before you can do that correlation. And we haven't, and we're getting close to some of that stuff. We can make generalizations, but it's very rough right now. So, but the government, I'm sure, is working their asses off on that one.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, like for IRS audits and stuff like that, it's going to be great. Anyway.
That they are not being able to actually visualize this image, number one, and the meaning of it. And number two, they would have absolutely zero clue what it meant unless, okay, if there were two people who were, they were quadriplegic and had no ability to communicate, you could scan their brains all day long, awake and asleep, and you'd have no idea what they were dreaming about.
I think we're beating a horse here.
So sleeping, or is he awake and sometimes sleeping? Does your God, like us, like other agents, always sleeping? That is your God awake or sleeping? Is he always awake, always sleeping, or is he awake and sometimes sleeping? Does your God, like us, like other agents, being sleep? Because we only know that agents are being
God
sleep.
is not a man lest he lies. So no, he is not a man.
And less sentient and less being each question we ask. So he's not, he doesn't sleep. So already he doesn't do something that all sentient beings do.
Now, see, where we're going with this is you're trying to get us to give you an acceptable evidence for our God. What we're talking about is the evidence for the requirements for one to exist in order for us to exist and be having this conversation. The affirmative is on you to prove that the arguments, i.e., are that things such as the abstracts that in every other context require an intelligent agent in order to be executed.
Does your God
that are
have
fundamental
abstracts?
requirements for our existence.
Intelligent agent.
And why are they
Does your God have
prescriptive as
abstracts?
well? Why are these abstracts or concepts prescriptive in many cases?
They're descriptive. We're describing
Well, they're
things.
descriptive of something
But does your
prescriptive.
God, you just said an agent does these things. Does your agent God make abstractions?
No, they're reflections of his
God
character,
of his being,
of
is
his
that
nature.
what-
They're reflective.
But not reflections
He doesn't
of
need
our
to create
nature?
them.
Not reflections of our nature. We have to have these special rules where we have to have abstractions in our brain, but he gets to be them. He just can't lie because he's truth.
Okay, so we're talking about whether or not God exists. As I specified in my opening statement, we were not going to go down the rabbit hole of specific religions and specific gods. We're talking about the requirement of a external agent required for our existence.
Classical theism, a being.
And you're defending classical atheism. That is the entire purpose of this.
There's no gods that we can see. No gods. No.
So now you have to defend the fact that in every other context, the things that we're discussing right now, just like the interpretation of the brain scans that Brenda brought up, require intelligent agents.
If abstractions cannot be true and true, then it's negated. You're saying it has to be true, but you can have abstractions that don't become true ever, right?
Empiricism is an invalid argument anyway. Just because we don't see him doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. That means that he would be subject. He would be subject to our.
Okay. We're almost at burnout point here as far as the stream, but there is a part where he starts talking about quantum decoherence and tunneling and
he actually
enzymes.
mentions quantum coherence, and I don't think that he
says quantum coherence. And I was hoping Ian could get me a timestamp for that. Does anybody know how far it was?
No.
I don't know. Anyway, the arguments, looking at Praise's part of this, the arguments that he makes for God are basically, I have a beetle in a box, and I can make up anything I want about the beetle. It can be red, it can be blue, it can be on, it can be off, it can be abstract, it can be material. Basically, whatever. It can be timeless, it can be spaceless. But I have a beetle in the box, and you can't see it, but we know it's there. It's just a bunch of bullshit.
Schrodinger's beetle.
It just go, yeah. Wittgenstein's beetle in a box. Yeah, well, Schrodinger's cat and beetle. Yeah, I see where you went with that.
Wait, is there like an actual beetle analogy that I just didn't know?
Yeah, well, it has to do with language. Wittgenstein and the beetle in the box, and it's. I thought I understood it once, but I'm not entirely sure if anybody understands Wittgenstein. Anyway, it's a good idea to try to understand him, but I'm not sure. Maybe I can find it.
Senses. No, we have a God that's he's transcendent to sensuality.
Like a weak God.
God is transcendent to sensuality.
Yeah, so your senses. Yeah.
What does
Hearing,
that mean?
Taste, validate your senses, your empiricism.
Let's see.
No, I'm proving a point which apparently is beyond your unreasonable mind, which is that there are many, many things that cannot occur without the action of an intelligent agent. And since at the fundamental level, thousands of these are directly required for life to exist, you are having to suspend this known information from the equation in the relation to your very existence.
I got the timestamp for quantum coherence.
It is extraordinarily reasonable.
Yes.
What is it?
5530. And that's a couple seconds before he mentions it, just to be on the safe side.
5522. Okay. They babble quite a bit about. Amy is trying to get him to define intelligence, and Maddox just, well, if you don't know what intelligence is, then you're too stupid to talk to me. But he won't define it, and she's trying to get him to define this mind entity, God, which they believe they have. And at one point in here, Brenda asks, "Does your God have thoughts? Does he deliberate?" And to deliberate, you have to have thoughts in a sequence, and basically,
exactly.
And Praise agrees with that and says, yeah, okay, he deliberates. And then she says, so he can't be timeless. It has to be. And Praise says, no, it all happens at once. And then John says, there are simultaneous things happen in your brain because you can move your right hand at the same time you're scratching your cojones or whatever the hell. You can do two things at once. And it goes on. Wait, let's hear the quantum part, and then we'll clap this guy's getting a little long.
Oh, no, I don't actually. Time is simply one dimension, right? It is one dimension.
No, there's actually...
hang on, Brace. You claim that simultaneity is not possible. What is quantum coherence?
I don't know.
Okay, so what is happening in photosynthesis with the transfer of energy through quantum coherence so there's no loss of energy? Oh wait, it's every possible path being taken at the exact same time. Like this
I don't know that.
Okay,
That's
well,
not,
Google it and then come back and talk to us
I'm talking about
what is simultaneity in what is possible is, and if you don't even have an understanding of this, but you're throughout this entire debate so far, both of you all have been dismissing the positions that have been being put forth by Praise on quantum mechanics and me and other aspects, but you don't even know what we're talking about. And yet you claim that you're the reasonable ones in something as big as questions about our very existence and the requirements for it.
Well, John, when I say that there's no such thing as simultaneity, I'm talking about special relativity and the fact that there are no simultaneous events. I'm not talking about quantum mechanics. You just completely misconstrued what I said.
Well, no, since there's questions about the whole point of consciousness being the executor of wave function collapse and all sorts of other things are exactly in line with that. They're not separate from, they're directly related to, is the entire point that's being made.
Wave function collapse has nothing to do with simultaneity.
Right? It's funny because
so the question was,
if
can
John
your brain
would know
do two
if I
different
said
things at once?
State vector reduction, if he would know what the fuck that meant.
Yeah, I think Brenda overextended here again with the simultaneity part.
No, she's right.
But okay, but Maddox definitely doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and and look at the look on his face. I mean, he's absolutely sure he knows. It's just amazing. So they get to the end.
There's no such thing as simultaneous actions. There are not.
Okay, and I just proved it. I just told you that there were things. And if there, okay, are there questions about the functions in our brain being our brain basically having the actions of a quantum computer?
What?
Well, I don't know how the brain works. Nobody does. I don't think it's a quantum computer.
Well, there's dramatic. Okay, so do you think that there's enzymes in your body right now that control quantum coherence and quantum tunneling in order for you to exist?
No, enzymes are far too large to have any effect on quantum.
Really? You don't think that quantum tunneling is a fundamental component for your very existence?
You should.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well then apparently you need to do some chemistry
problem here is that
for both.
I don't think that John, and this is how you know when these people don't understand anything is when they put the word quantum in front of it. Because if you ask any professional, they don't say quantum tunneling; they just say tunneling. Yeah. So I have the paper that he's talking about because he's going to mention respiration from Nature Journal, Quantum Biological Tunnel Junction for Electron Transfer in Imaging in Live Cells. And essentially what it talks about, there are junctions where electrons will tunnel through the barriers of molecules, and that this can help in things like photosynthesis, cellular respiration, not actually like breathing, DNA repair, cellular homeostasis, and cell death. So is there tunneling in the human brain? There could be. We don't know. Considering that literally everything is quantum mechanical, because you can break it down to quantum mechanical substrates, probably to some degree. He keeps saying coherence, which is just a state of a quantum system not interacting at all with any aspect of its surrounding environment. I think the term he's trying to use, the term that he's actually looking for, would be decoherence, which is where information of a quantum system is lost to its environment through its entanglement with that environment, at which point you state that the quantum state or the quantum system decoheres to its environment. So again, he's just demonstrating his ignorance on this. And as for consciousness and wave function collapse, we don't really know what wave function collapse is or why it occurs, or if it's even something that actually occurs at all. We just don't know that yet. But the technical jargon for it would be state vector reduction, which, as I've already stated, is really just the projection of an eigenbasis to one particular eigenstate or basis eigenstate. You don't need consciousness there. There are also other ways that we can represent it. It really just depends within the realm of, what is it? Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Oh, fuck. Not renormalization. But canonical quantization. There we go. You can represent this. You can represent measurements by utilizing what are called Hermitian operators on a Hilbert space. So we know the math behind this. We don't need consciousness to explain it.
Right. There's a in your synapses, there is a calcium channel that is so narrow that one calcium ion at a time goes through it, and that causes your synapse, basically your synapse to fire, or for a neurotransmitter to fuse with the membrane. It has to do with calcium, and they talk about quantum effects, and that happens every single time you get down to the level, the atomic level or subatomic level, or when you get to a smaller level, you're always going to have some quantum effects. That doesn't fucking mean that they have to have that it has anything to do with consciousness or any of the bullshit they come up with. But when they read the paper and they say the word quantum, who the hell said it? Was it you, Fish? Basically, quantum. Yeah, quantum is a woo word for them, and they love it, you know. And it's and the reason it's a woo word is because nobody understands the math.
Well, they don't understand it. The one question I do want to ask John is if he knows what a square integrable function is.
I can tell you the answer to that.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said I can give you the answer.
Oh yeah, I know you know it. Shit, everybody in this stream.
No,
right
no,
now
I was
is-
saying his answer is going to be no.
Yeah, of course he doesn't know what it is.
I love this. I love the quantum dressing for my cell.
But that's because they don't know anything about single variable calculus, let alone the multivariate calculus that's often used in quantum mechanics. Oh, it's just funny.
Wasn't there some native?
Square integrable functions kind of gives its name away.
It does straightforwardly. That's just what makes it funny.
Although I think the context of that is more pertinent to complex analysis than it is like real functions.
Yeah, the functional analysis would be complex analysis, functional analysis. Yeah, but that is very, very ubiquitous within quantum mechanics, as I know that you know, and that's why it's relevant to the discussion. So, and see, that's another thing that we all understand, but they don't, is that a lot of these terms are they're not even, we can work with them within the framework of quantum mechanics, but it's just bare math. And that math can simply be applied within a quantum mechanical framework.
The thing is, like, a lot of people complain about mathematics. The thing is, though, is like, if you've actually studied a tidbit of like calculus 2, the lie like that you're taught is like, oh yeah, we can integrate functions. What they don't tell you about is that pretty much all functions, like, or all combinations of functions, for the most part, can't be integrated.
Yeah.
Complex analysis comes along. Yeah, these issues are issues, but not really.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. There's techniques in complex analysis that drastically simplify certain issues that come up. Oh,
Okay,
sure.
guys. I don't know.
Sure.
You want to call
Does
it?
anybody else want dinner?
I'm
Yeah,
waiting
but
for
I
my
know.
dinner to get here.
Dinner. Yeah.
Do you do like Postmates or something?
Me?
You have a
No.
ferry?
My mom is picking me up a couple of
Oh.
brisket sliders from a barbecue joint. They went to Ames today. So.
Dude.
Oh,
You know, I'm in apparently like a barbecue capital or something, but it's surprisingly hard to get barbecue.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I guess just since I'm on campus and I don't want to spend money, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating. And there was way more barbecue back in Alabama, I will say that.
Good old Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been spoiled on barbecue my entire life because my uncle owns one of the best barbecue restaurants in the state. So,
You should
there
send
we
it.
huh?
Send me some. I wonder if I can get pandemic safe Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Get beyond KFC.
KFC, I don't know.
I don't know. Did they touch that chicken?
It's KFC. I don't know if it's chicken.
Oh, that's a problem.
By the way, I'm not sure if it's the correct term, but Leo probably knows it better than I do. Whole thing about what I think it's called quantum supercoherence.
I've heard that, but I don't know if I could define that term. I've heard it a couple times reading. You know what? Let me see if Mr. Google can help me out here. So I've heard of it. I wonder if the articles that what article? I thought I read it maybe in a quantum magazine article once, but I don't know.
Give me a few minutes, but I can describe what it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, give me a few minutes. Gotta take care of something real quick.
Oh, it's coherence within the framework of supersymmetry, which we're quite certain supersymmetry isn't true, and the Casimir effect is one of the things that's demonstrated at supersymmetry. Which supersymmetry, for those who don't know, states that for every fermion, which is one classification of elementary particles, there's also a boson, which is a different classification of elementary particles. So we have the Higgs boson. The fermion version of that would be called the Higgs xeno. We have a photon, which is a boson. The fermion version would be a photino. You have the electron. There would be a bosonic form of an electron. But the Casimir effect, with specifically the electromagnetic field, what we did is we took two plates that are really, really, really small and put them close together, and they started to attract very, very slowly because of those fluctuations within the electromagnetic quantum field. Well, if there were a bosonic form of an electron, or I mean rather a fermionic form of a photon, that should have directly canceled out that attractive force and the plates wouldn't have moved at all. So the fact that we didn't observe that indicates that it's supersymmetry. The best way to put it is that supersymmetry does not comport with the observations that we make.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's wrong, just doesn't comport with what we currently do.
Have you seen the King Crocoduck versus Kent Hovind debate series?
Yes.
Okay, because you mentioned the Kashmir effect, or I said it the way Hoban says it, the Kashmir effect.
Yeah. Kashmir.
Though, actually.
Huh?
What's up?
It's like the Casimir effect or the Kashmir effect.
Casimir.
Casimir?
Mm-hmm. Casimir.
Okay, I didn't know if one of the I's there was silent.
The Christians are always talking lately about, the really important questions about how we got here and shit like that. And I just asked my son question: can we get KFC delivered?
I could have misheard it, but I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about it. But he was using, maybe it was a different term he was using, but he was talking about how when you start to approach like absolute zero, like for some material, for instance, theoretically, like it can essentially cause like the state of matter within that material like to become something new.
Yes.
Because the vibration
super fluid in some instances, super conductive in certain other instances. Yep.
Yeah, because it causes all the quantum states of that system to cohere. Causes the it causes them to just kind of resonate as one system instead of systems operating at different thermal levels.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a comment here. Does Bill Gates says genes are ones and zeros, and I would say let's not talk that way.
Well, because Bill Gates is not a biologist, a biochemist, a molecular biologist, an evolutionary biologist, a geneticist, or any other thing that's entirely relevant to this field. That would be, and I don't know if I think it's Iron Charioteer, so he's probably being a little bit facetious there. But that, if because I have heard actual theists make this argument, like Joel or SFB Mod, we call him Joel, just to purposefully mispronounce his name, like we do with all of them. But he made that statement, and that is by textbook definition an argument from authority.
Yeah. So that's also, if y'all are familiar with PragerU's video where they got Michael Behe. It was someone, I forgot who it was. It was actually.
Did you just say PragerU?
Yeah. PragerU makes that claim in their video, and that was actually like the first video I responded to on my YouTube channel. They talked about
they make me laugh.
The problems with evolution or something. God, was it Behe or was it Stephen Meyer?
Yeah, I think it was Behe. Wasn't it? I thought so.
I don't know.
Let's let Immutable continue explaining it because I want to hear
one of the two of them. It's one of the two because those are the only like biologists that kind of remotely fall to that field, if I recall right, that they have.
No, he is definitely fucking with us, right?
I'm fucking with you.
Yeah. Somebody's messing with our head.
Stephen Meyer wasn't Behe.
Okay, guys, what do you say we end this?
All right.
Okay, guys, thanks everybody in the chat room, and we are going to end the broadcast. Goodbye.
As always, Stan Amelia Clark.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll discuss what we're going to do tonight.
You will never get to end the broadcast before I say that. Never. I won't let it happen.
I'm just going to have to mute you before you open your freaking mouth.
Oh, yeah, I got a phone to pick with you, Leo, after I end the broadcast.
I'll just get a picture that with her face on it that says Stan Amelia Clark and just start holding it up if you mute me.
Dude, you should make that into like a poster board.
I should. Put it right behind me.
Everyone say goodbye. We're shutting down. Say goodbye.
Take care. Take care. Pray to the devil.
Boys and girls.